Meeting to order.
Oops.
Zoom meeting ID is,
Hold on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim. I'm
Once is
sorry about
enough.
that.
okay, the Zoom meeting ID is 844-6523-8259. Zoom meeting password is FinCom, capital FINCOM. The Zoom chats will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note this meeting is being recorded for live broadcast and televised replay by Bourne TV. If anyone is audio or visual recording, please acknowledge it at this time. Seeing none, use of flash photography during Finance Committee meetings is prohibited. All the members are present. The first item is reserve fund transfers. Are there any?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you. Next, we're happy to have Barry Johnson, the chairman of the CPC committee, or CPA committee, come early to talk to us about overview of the CPA program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I've sent out, I hope all of you received this information. It was a short synopsis of exactly what the Community Preservation Program is and what the Preservation Act is, and basically what you can and can't do under the Act, et cetera. So this slide, where I got this from, the town has been a member of the Community Preservation Coalition, which was started up in Boston with a few towns, et cetera, getting together. And now, as you probably noticed in this packet, 196 of the cities and towns of the 350 in the Commonwealth are now members of the CPA program. And that had to be adopted way back on a town meeting vote as well on the ballot. And so, that's was accepted back in, I think it was 205 or 206. Yes, right here, 205 election. And you'll notice that it was 84% yes and 16% no. And what that realized was that everyone agreed that there'd be a 3% surcharge on everyone's real estate bill dedicated to the community preservation purposes. So when you look at your tax bill and you pay it, you'll see where it says CPA, that's the 3% surcharge. When, just by way of history, when this first came in, there used to be, down in the county, was called the Cape Cod Land Bank. And it was basically a similar program, but it was only for the purchase of open space and those types of activities. So when the CPA came in and the town adopted it, we actually, I think we had about $250,000 to start with in that program. So under the statute and the Division of Local Services, that money automatically transferred into the CPA program. Okay. So, but the other thing is that all 15 towns on Cape Cod, when this first started, adopted it. Every single town at the same surcharge level of 3% surcharge. There, and go ahead.
The 3%, sorry, Mr. Johnson, the 3%, is that we collect the taxes and then 3% of that goes to the CPA, or we collect the taxes plus an additional 3%? No,
what it is under the CPA for 2024, okay, the tax was 1,700,000 some odd,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then that's the revenue source. And there's a second revenue source, which is called the Community Preservation Trust Fund, which is in the legislature up in the state. And where those monies come from is a surcharge on the Registry of Deeds filings. And that goes up and down based on the real estate market. We always, since we've started, we've budgeted $250,000 that will come into the town from the trust fund. Sometimes we get more than $250,000, and sometimes we get less. But it averages out, well, we get more than we really have been budgeting. So the total I have it here. For 2024, the revenue, bear with me. I have it here somewhere. Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Oh, excuse me. The revenue in 2024 for the surcharge was $1,734,025.06, and plus the $250 from the trust fund. So we estimated revenue was a grand total of $1,984,025.06. So, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, so if you don't mind, could we just go through these pages? I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll come back. Is that okay? And I also would like to say that Rich Lavoie has been with our program, I think, from the beginning too.
Yes.
And has kind of carried our water at town meeting on every single article. And sometimes he's got beat up like the rest of us. But he's been a tremendous help and a resource from the Finance Committee back to our committee. So I certainly want to recognize that. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'd like to go through the pages. Okay, now, in other words, what can the CPA money use for? I'm looking at the second page. And it's for his historic preservation and restoration, open space and recreation, and community housing purposes. And I just said the 196 towns have adopted it now. That includes Boston, that includes Worcester, et cetera. So it isn't just local communities, so they're in on. Now, the local surcharge, as I said, is 3% on local commercial and residential property bills. And as I just said here in Bourne, raised 1.7 from surcharge in FY23. Stop me if you want to ask any questions. This is the state trust fund I just referred to. And as you will notice, Bourne received $413,000 this year. And unfortunately, because of the market of the real estate has kind of gone down now, that won't be as much this next year. There's no doubt about it. But we don't get really notified the actual percentage from the Department of Revenue until it's all, collected and finished up. And Bourne since 2005, which is when we did adopt the CPA program, you'll notice that we have, through the CPA surcharge of 3%, that we have raised $22,856,452, and the trust fund from the state has come in at $9,644,000, and the total CPA revenue since 2005 is $32,500,000. Okay. Now, excuse me just a minute. Next page. Okay. So how does it work? Okay, as it says here, each municipality passes the Community Preservation Committee by ordinance and bylaw. In the general bylaws of the town, Article 8.1 through Section 6 or 7 or 8 off the top of my head, the town has adopted the CPA bylaw, and that is the basis upon which the Community Preservation Committee works. So we actually have two governing things. The state statute, which you can find, which is Chapter 44B of the Mass General Laws, as well as Article 8 of the general bylaws. And bring it right down locally. This local Community Preservation Committee is made up of 9 people. And at this point in the town bylaw, there are 4 people from the Open Space Committee, 1 from the Planning Board, 1 from the Conservation, 1 from the Recreation, help me out, Rich, but whatever. Planning, did I say planning? Anyway, but there were 9 of us. And also in the bylaw that the town has voted that 70% of the estimated revenue, et cetera, goes towards the open space recreation category. And under the law, you must have a minimum of a 10% of that revenue must be allocated to the community housing and to the historic preservation and to the recreation. So, and we in Bourne, we combine the open space recreation line item as opposed to breaking it out, so. And originally in CPA, recreation was not included, but there was such a demand that the law was changed. And I think one of the prohibitions that you probably saw and laughed at, no horse racing, you know, et cetera. So that's right in the statute. Okay, and here's the committee. As I said, we hold a public hearing, we have input from everybody. We advertise that how we do it in Bourne is that we have a regular application, et cetera, that people must file. And we advertise it on the website, we put it in the newspapers, we notify the departments, the boards and committees and the nonprofits throughout the town that the applications are available and that we're accepting them for the 4 core units of CPA. I want to stress that. CPA funds can only be used for CPA projects. They cannot be intermingled for operational monies of the town or anything else. Strictly CPA projects. I just wanted to emphasize that. So, as you see, we accept the project proposals, and then we get the input, and our process may be a little laborious, but it's worked for years. And that is that once we have a deadline, once we get applications, the committee meets, and then we do an initial review and invite all the applicants in, doesn't matter how many, so that we can have an initial understanding and let them have a small presentation of exactly what that project, you know, entails. And then what we do from there, we ship it out to, for instance, the Historic Preservation. We always have asked the Historic Commission for an input. Either you recommend it or you don't. We don't have to accept it, but that recommendation, but we feel is very, very important for that extra step to do it. Same thing on the community housing. The chair of the, I think he's still here, the Historic Commission, Mr. Langell, is behind me, and Sue Ross is Community Housing Partnership and the Partnership Trust, and the Recreation Committee, Mr. Mylene and now Katie, et cetera, for all of their input in the applications. Okay, then what we do is we must hold a public hearing, advertised, et cetera, and again, they come back, and now this time they make another presentation of it, and the key thing in this act, and Liz knows this better than anybody I know, that same thing. The uniqueness of this is that if 5 of our committee members vote not to recommend a project, it does not go forward. Town meeting, I don't care if the whole town shows up. If 5 of us don't recommend it, it just doesn't work. That's kind of unique, or at least that's my understanding of it. So far, I don't think we've ever turned down one. We've recommended maybe against one, but our feeling is we always feel that town meeting should have a say. And we'll give an input at the town meeting, et cetera. So now we're at the point, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but the applications have been vetted. We have held our public hearing, and I'll skip ahead. Every single project that you have seen, we'll see tonight, we're recommending to go forward. And the next step goes to you folks, where you are tonight, and tomorrow night it goes to the select board. And I know your process, and that is we don't expect votes tonight. I don't think you'll ever do that. And the select board basically does the same thing, and we don't expect that. And then you'll get your recommendation, and then when you get the voter handbook, you'll see that it'll either be sponsored by the community preservation, or in or not, you'll see the finance committees voted X to Y to recommend it or not recommend it with an explanation. Same thing with the select board. And then we go fast forward to town meeting. When the article comes up and it's positive, I believe the select board now are making the positive recommendations, or I believe versus a FinCom. Okay, and I'm aware you've changed your procedures, and that's fine. And then once it gets on the floor, we always ask, I believe, for the FinCom recommendation, and the select board too. So Rich has always been assigned that project. I hope he continues. It's a little bit laborious on his side, but that's how we get it to town meeting, okay? And then the town meeting actually has the final say, obviously. So except for what I just told you. Okay, how does that happen? And as I'm not gonna take a little more time, but I just explained to you, and you can read the bylaw of how the projects happen. And as I say, we vet it at least between the initial one, between our meeting, then we go back, and if we want more information, we ask them to come back in, and then we're satisfied, then we go to the public hearing, then we'll either vote our recommendations that night, sometimes we don't, because we ask for more information, but most of the time we do, to keep the process rolling. And now we've held it, and we also, at that hearing, we have asked for any regional projects that anyone would like to come forth. This past year, as you know, there was a regional project, and I believe it's in the, Sue corrected me, town of Dennis. And there are communities, and they asked each community, it's a major housing development, affordable housing, to contribute. So, as you remember, last year, we voted $75,000 out of the Community Preservation Fund to go towards that regional project, which was the first time that's ever happened. But that was very important. And the next thing that happens is, again, I'm getting ahead of myself, I guess, but the CPC itself, the committee, under the statute, that we are, I don't want to use the word entitled, but we are able to ask for our administration of the program, which is we can use it for hiring of administrative support, or if the open space or another committee comes to us and said, as long as it fits the categories, and we'd like to have some consultant money, we don't have any money, like the open space, as an example, which I'm chairman of too, we don't have a budget. So what we do is we go to the CPA and say, we need, we like to investigate, and we'd like to have an appraisal of a certain parcel, and then they give us, have never turned us down, money to conduct an appraisal, and that's where that money comes from, because the Open Space Committee's never had an actual budget within the operating budget. Okay, so it goes to town meeting, and again, this was the rules under which it is spent. You can see it, it's the pie, and how it must be spent. Okay, I'm getting near the end here. But I thought this was very important for you folks to see this. And again, allowable uses, okay, that's the chart. So all you gotta do is, if you want a reference, to check it back and forth. And this was restrictions, basically maintenance. I always get hung up on that word maintenance, but basically what it means is that we can't really spend money, Liz, correct me, for us to take money and pay for a mowing or something like that. What we can do is to contract out the money, you know, for a project. For instance, I'll just use the Canal Crossroads project right down the street here, which has that inclusive playground, et cetera, and the access to the canal. There's some dead limbs in there, et cetera, you know, which may pose a hazard to whoever's walking through. So we will contract that money out for a contractor. We can't actually pay that for hiring a town to take a, or the town's not prohibited from using their own labor force, which we don't think they can do too much. They gotta do the fields and everything, but they could come in with a gravely and all of that. May possibly, I'm gonna talk to the new DPW director, but that's just an example. So that's very important. And ongoing expenses, with the exception of a small administrative. Now, we, in the law, we can ask up to 5% of the surcharge. So the surcharge I just told you is about $1.7 million. So 5% of that comes out to about, in my head, about 85,000. So for years, we have had an article asking for 75,000 for the operation money. It's a separate article for the operation of the committee. At the end of that year, that money is automatically, that article is closed out, and the remaining balances goes into the Community Preservation Fund. That's the one article that is totally closed out every year for the unexpended balance. Okay, some years we spend more, some years we don't. But if we wanted to hire a, say a CPA administrator, as an example, because we're dealing with a lot of projects. So far, we've done it on the committee, myself, you folks, select board, et cetera. We have a lady who does minutes for us and things like that. And but anything we do, we have been operating through the committee. And it says right here, no, you can't use these funds to supplement the activities funded elsewhere in the Bourne Town budget. So I hope that's helpful. It just gives you an overview, because some of you folks I know, and thank you for being willing to serve on the committee, might be new to CPA. And it's a very, very important program for the town. And the town has benefited in many ways of various and sundry projects. So, I don't know, any questions
Thank you.
or
Rich,
comments?
did you have a question?
My question was really to follow up on Carl's. 3% is a surcharge on the total tax bill, not on the assessment of the property.
No, it's 3% of the surcharges on everybody's real estate bill. So as I understand it, say you get $100, 3% of $100.
Right.
Right. And the accounting and the finance department separates that money out, and it's
Right.
in the community preservation fund, and that's where the monies will come from. So we can't go back and ask the town, for money, because that's used for operational. There is one other thing that we have done, and we've been very judicious in this, we think, the committee. We are allowed to use CPA funds for borrowing for a particular purpose. So for instance, 20 years ago, I think it's almost expired. If you go to the middle school and you see the soccer fields behind there, that was $1,550,000. And we paid off the debt service through CPA funds. It does not go into the debt service of the town.
Because there's a
Okay.
separate line item for the CPA debt, so that's what that's for.
And the last borrowing we did, if I recall, is for the track behind the high school. And I believe that was around $675,000. But other than that, we're debt-free, I think in a year or two. So, but again, I want to let you know, all of a sudden, a big parcel of land, for instance, that came up, and we have an opportunity to buy it, and we don't have enough on hand. We go to the select board, through the regular process, and then town meeting, and we ask for authorization to borrow. And then you pay it off with the CPA funds. So every project that's before you tonight, in the future, in the past, is all funded through CPA, plus the administrative work.
Thank
So, I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes. So you
I
touched,
hope so.
you touched on something about the distinction between maintenance, which is not allowed,
Right.
and rehabilitation and restoration, which is. So I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of a judgment call. You said mowing a lawn wouldn't be, clearing brush might be.
Right, well, the contract, for instance, as I told you, it could be, well, for instance, if we wanted to go ahead and, I use the Canal Crossways only because it's right here, and it's stone dust. Many of you probably have been there. And we want to upgrade, because now it's been there for years, it needs to be done. So that's kind of like a maintenance thing for us to pay for. But if we go out and engage a contractor to come in and do the procurement properly, et cetera, then we can have somebody and pay for that. Okay, so it's not, and we can't use them, we have not used, because it's much, we've gradually gotten away from it, is the DPW workforce. Because they have an awful lot to do, with the fields and just maintain everything. And we've got a lot of things now in the town to keep up, just to keep it up. So when you see, we saw an article and it says for improvements to town-owned parcels, and that's very encompassing. It's not zeroed in, because we could all of a sudden find a certain parcel that needs to be dealt with immediately, like for access, or we've lost something that we can do it that way. But it'd have to be contracted out, as opposed to, what's that word, force, labor force, our own labor force. So, and Liz and Marlene and the finance department, et cetera, are extremely helpful, and obviously in the procurement, and to us too. So that's how it goes.
So sometimes on town meeting floor, people will object or have concerns about having all the different CPC requests under the same article. Have you discussed like the pluses and minuses of separating them?
We heard it, and you will see the draft warrant, that they were all in separate articles. There was one article that you will see 3 projects in, because it just would have ballooned the warrant, and they're reoccurring. There are 2 for the community housing, which we'll get into, which is standard, it's going on for support of their programs. And also, there is the 86 Waterhouse Road, which is up behind the high school, and the ADA living components up there, those dwellings, et cetera. We had funded that project before, which was to improve the living conditions. Basically, it's all ADA and gutters and roofs, and, just drive through there, and I think you'll understand that. And that's an article, well, you're gonna get to it tonight. It was filed by the Bourne Housing Authority, because they own it. So we can help to offset their costs, but they'll oversee it, and they'll bid it out, and then we will pay it based on the vouchers. So, but you'll see that tonight, because it's just a supplement. They've asked for 200,000 to continue that program. And the other project that is in the one article is the Katomet Schoolhouse, which is preserved, and it needs to be, they have an infestation that needs to be dealt with. So those 3 projects are in one article, but instead of going 1, 2, 3, but we have, I think, 6 or 7 articles. Jim,
Thank you.
okay?
Any questions? All right, if you'd like, we could, I'm sorry.
Yep. You said that since 2005, we've had 32 million added to the CPA fund,
That's total.
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 Have we spent I guess it would be 30 million
Well,
over
no,
the last?
we have some reserves,
Okay.
and we review them every year. And our process has been that we go back to the sponsoring agencies. So, for instance, we have a list of remaining balances and et cetera, and I think Amanda actually asked for that type of thing. So we will be prepared at a future meeting to go over it with you. What's out there and why we're holding some and why we're letting some go and that type of thing. So we'll go back to the Historic Commission. We go over every single line item. Okay, what do you feel? Is this in progress? Is this what you're going to do? Do you have outstanding bills? Or just where are these projects? And I use this word, they're evergreen, because they're in articles, et cetera, in the project, voted, until they're actually closed out. Now, the difference now we don't have to go back to town meeting. We used to have to do that. So now we can just vote on the recommendation of, say, the Historic Commission, Community Housing, Recreation, and we go to Finance, and they'll say, no, you can return these funds to the fund. And that's what happens.
And then
It
the
goes
article
right-
gets
But when it
closed.
goes back,
Okay.
it goes back into the separate categories. Historic goes to historic, housing to housing, et cetera. So it's an ongoing, rotating, updating. We know where it is as a committee. But like I say, we always get their input first, because they were the sponsoring agency.
In most cases?
I can't hear.
In most cases, for the articles, they're the sponsoring, the articles that are still outstanding are mostly from the Historical Society.
No, they're all over.
They're all over.
All four aspects of the CPA program.
Okay.
Yeah, recreation, open space, community housing, historic preservation, restoration.
So I guess in a later date, we'll get an update on how much you have left, how much is potentially outstanding.
We're gonna provide you with a list with all the balances, and we're gonna explain, and at least from our point of view, why we need to keep it, or
Okay.
why we need to turn it back. So Amanda actually asked for that, Jim told me that, through the chair, and we are in the process of preparing that and reviewing it. So we're gonna gladly do that.
Thank
And
you.
we will have the people that I just mentioned, housing, historic, et cetera, here the same night, that they'll be presenting their reasoning. So again, it's a vote of the committee, what goes on, whatever. So it's very, very powerful projects for the town, and the town has definitely been able to quality of life. I don't know how else to explain to you. That's the way we look at it. Has certainly been improved by adoption of this program. So,
All right, thank you.
If I may, thank you, Barry, for preparing that. I would maybe recommend you provide a report to town meeting with that information. Nothing extensive, just, a short, this is what we have, this is what's outstanding, maybe an upcoming timeline or why. I think the transparency to help highlight all the work that you folks are doing would be beneficial to town meeting.
well, we're going to provide it and give it to all of you, okay? And at a future meeting, because you got a lot to do
Yep.
before the town meeting, et cetera, and you will invite us back, I hope. I get wound up, I'm sorry, but that's just the way I am. But, and we're going to go line by line by line and by category,
Thank you,
Thank you.
okay?
thank you.
All right, to move on to Article 7, CPC Recreation Feasibility Study.
I'm sorry.
Yep, that is me.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chair. I have notified all of the applicants as you have listed them. And I think the first one up, request is from Liz and the Recreation Committee. So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we could start right with the request.
Yes.
And as I said, we've recommended to you folks to go forward,
Thank you.
all of them.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen so people at home can actually see the presentation that is in front of you. But yeah, so the town administration has been working with the Recreation Committee, and we have pulled together 2 recommendations for articles on CPC. So these have actually been, rewinding back to 2023, the Recreation Committee actually went to CPC for for funding for a very comprehensive project behind this building, behind the community building. And actually, the recommendation from the Finance Committee, from Capital Outlay, and the Select Board to actually hit the pause button. And everyone asked, is this what the community really needs? Before we start backing up a potential multi-million-dollar project, let's actually get an assessment of all recreational assets and facilities. So on January 30th, I think, of last year, of 2023, the Recreation Committee was charged with that actual task by the Select Board. And for the past year, the Recreation Committee has been working on a needs assessment. And it tackled 3 different areas, facilities being the first one, then communications, and actually staffing. So they're working on the other 2, but on January 23rd of this year, 2024, the Recreation Committee pulled together a full needs assessment, presented it to the Select Board with also a recommendation for 2 articles, and that is before you tonight, for $150,000 for feasibility study on Clark, Pocasset, Chester, and Keith recreational areas. And then the second article will be for $500,000 for the skate park that is behind this building in an all-wheel facility park. So the first one, and then there is a link and the QR code, you can scan that to get an actual access to the full report, which is online. Article 7 that is before you tonight, it is, like I had mentioned, it is tackling 4 different locations. And what is unique about this project that the Recreation Committee and the town administration are recommending is that it's be collectively looked at together, all 4 locations. There are so that way all services can actually be identified, and making sure that all villages in the community can have access to what their needs are. So some locations in the needs assessment, you'll see in the report, Some locations are not being utilized, they're being underutilized, and maybe there's another aspect or another sport or another passive recreational opportunity that the feasibility study could identify. So this is something very unique that I have not actually seen other communities do, which is actually a positive for Bourne, is looking at it collectively as a whole for these large facility areas.
Liz, sorry,
yes.
are these I heard you say that they're large, are they our four most popular
Yes.
areas?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say, Katie, could you? Yeah.
Most
And
of these ones?
and those 4 locations actually were identified with the majority of the work. In the needs assessment, you'll see actually broken down by assets and within each area, and it's rated by the Recreation Committee. So in the full asset report, you'll see it broken down. And I believe 75% of the 34 assets that the Recreation Committee identified, 74% of them fall within these 4 areas. Hence why they felt that this was something really important to prioritize for this current fiscal year and not wait for a later fiscal year.
And, okay, and excuse me, the Pecasset recreational area, is that the one inside the Tohoto Association?
No.
By Larry's Market, okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I will let you, I checked the QR code, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
No, it took me to a page not found.
Oh.
In case you're handing it out to
Thank you.
anybody
I will
else.
make sure, yes, I
Yeah,
will make
yeah.
sure that that is corrected. Thank you. But, so the feasibility study also is going to ensure, and this was a recommendation by the Recreation Committee, is that there is an active public participation plan drafted within the feasibility study, so that there's a robust conversation in identifying what the community in various different memberships of our community are really looking for and needing. So reaching out to associations and leagues and other, like I said, memberships of our community to really get an accurate reflection as to the plan moving forward and how to reimagine some of these locations. Some of the fields, the softball fields or baseball fields are not being utilized, but maybe there's, I believe back in December, the Lacrosse Association came before the Select Board asking for possibly a location on town facilities. And so the Recreation Committee heard that and is looking into incorporating that as for a location that's underutilized.
So like the Monument Beach Civic Association, the Sagamore Civic Association?
It would be all and above, but the public participation plan would identify through actually working with the Recreation Committee and an actual team for the feasibility study. They would identify who is needing, who is not at the table, who needs to be there, how to get them to the table, why aren't their voices being heard. So yes, they will identify all the stakeholders. Okay. ADA accessibility will also be included in this feasibility plan, as well as parking. A lot of these locations don't have adequate parking for the size, so that will also be incorporated into the feasibility study, as well as ongoing maintenance. That would be also a recommendation on how to maintain these properties once we make these improvements or move forward with an agreed upon plan. How do we go about maintaining this so that they're sustained for 20-plus years, including fencing, signage, all of those little extra enhancements that will bring us up to making this a really enjoyable experience for our community and for the visitors who come here, both just in a day passing or people that are here for a little longer.
Question.
Yes, sir.
These are 4 very different areas,
That's correct.
and are you envisioning a change of use of some of these areas?
No, it would remain recreation.
No, but I mean, like, for instance, the Keith Field Recreation Area is basically a baseball field.
Yep.
Are you envisioning that this would create something other than the baseball field?
Well,
or-
that's what the feasibility study is going to identify, whether or not those locations are being used for and continuing to be used for the future, or if it's something that needs to be changed because it's not being used, it's not popular, it's not something that is, yeah, I don't know how to rephrase that better than, that's what the study is supposed to identify.
And how are you gonna identify, what's the 150,000? Is that are you doing this internally, or
Oh,
you're gonna?
No, that's actually to pay for the consultant, so I don't have to do this. We actually need somebody, I don't have the expertise, Rich, to do a full recreational feasibility study. You need somebody who actually is a planner, who's an engineer, who's really skilled in recreational areas for communities, not just for like a country club type of recreation. This is for real community, real use.
I understand that, and
Yeah.
I think the people at town meeting need to understand it. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
Because I think you've got 4 distinct parcels here that
Yep.
serve certain needs of the community.
Yes,
And those people, like, for instance, the Chester Park area, there's a lot of summer people that use those areas, and they may or may not be available at the time this is, I just think we need to be clear about who we're gonna ask questions of and what the needs are.
well, it'll also be dependent upon the timing of when we can actually do the feasibility study. So that actually is a really valid point. For example, I'm gonna use the library's strategic plan. They actually did that during the summer, and they're working on a feasibility study for the library right now, and they are purposely hiring a consultant, or they put out an RFQ, they're going to be, and they're purposely timing it so that way they can take advantage of the summer populations coming in, because you're right, that is a population and a membership in our community that's extremely valuable. So we want people who are here to enjoy themselves, and we want to be able to identify what they want to do here.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, Amanda?
So I know, back to your introduction, it talks about pausing all sort of expenses and capital improvements. I know
Yes.
we previously approved money to fix some of the tennis courts.
Yes.
I know one of which was at Clark Field. I forget the other locations offhand.
Yes.
Has that truly been paused, or are they still moving forward?
No, we are moving forward. We actually issued the RFQ, and we did a notice to proceed, and we're working with a consultant and a vendor, and we have our first site visit next week on April 8th, and the plan is to get all 4 of those locations, the hard courts, redone by the middle of July, weather dependent. It's all based upon actual temperature and sustaining of temperature, as well as the dampness in the air, which right now we can't do anything. So, but yes, those are being moved forward, and the resurfacing of those projects, of those hard courts, are actually going to sustain the asset for a tentatively 2 to 4 years, okay? It is not a complete overhaul. It's not ripping out the courts and putting new pavement and making a brand-new flat surface. It is repairing cracks, sealing cracks, and repainting the surface, but it is not to redo the entire thing. So, and it's purposely for 2 to 4 years. It's strategically done that way. So it'll buy us time to get the feasibility study, identify the priorities within those feasibility studies, and then have the community identify which ones we're going to be tackling. And that feasibility study could identify more pickleball courts so that we could expand it, or whatever it is, we don't know. But yes, we're anticipating that the hardcore project is just to basically cover us until we can move forward with the feasibility study.
Thank you. That makes more sense. I didn't want to go in and redo courts, and then the feasibility study tells us those aren't used, rip them out. That
Yeah,
doesn't make
exactly. And they will need to be redone eventually, so that is part of the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Article 8, I'm sorry, are there any questions other additional questions for Article 7?
Nope. So Article 8?
Okay, Article 8 is the all-wheel skate park. So currently, right behind this building, the skate park was actually built or was utilizing a underserved tennis court. That's approximately 6,400 square feet. And about 20 years ago, the community bought some equipment, positioned some metal equipment on the actual underused tennis courts, and that has been sitting there out in the elements and getting rusty over the 20 years of time. And it is right now closed off. It is unsafe. It is not being used. However, back in 2022-23, the Recreation Committee, when they were working on actually a feasibility study and looking at how to utilize the back area of the space, the master plan that was identified, number 4 on the list, was actually an all-wheel plaza for this location. So the Recreation Committee, during their needs assessment that they just underwent, they felt that this was a top priority to look at redoing the all-wheel skate park and expanding it. So they asked the administration that I work towards putting together the CPC application. So right now, so online, the reason why that this is actually so much is that it is for actually rehauling, expanding, gutting. I don't know how else to, it's gonna be a brand-new facility, okay? And so there is an online resource actually by Tony Hawk that has a very valuable website that gives guidance to communities on how to build a skate park and how to assess the right size of it and what types of elements are based upon your community and the needs and wants of the community. And for the size of our community and the popularity of the sport in our community, the calculations actually are recommending on Tony Hawk's website to expand it to 8,400 square feet. And so that would bump out beyond the existing footprint of the tennis court where the skate park is closed currently. We are undergoing, the recreation staff and myself and DPW, we're looking at actually bringing in an engineer to just test the ground to make sure that it is something, whether it be above ground or below ground, and if it can actually be the proper placement on this location as well. There are some contaminants that have been found in the past from the previous usage of this site, so we want to make sure that we're doing everything appropriately, and also that those testings and studies will be used for any other improvements on the site that the community identifies for future use. But it will be the all-wheel skate park is including of bikes, roller skates, even people that have any types of mobility challenges and wheels, assistance and stuff. So it is really a very inclusive park that we are imagining. And I know that there are consultants and designers and construct to build companies out there that we would procure for this service that are actually skilled, and that is what they do for a living, is building skate parks across the country and world. So the estimated value for this, this is an example, a couple of examples of different sizes, and this is actually taken from Tony Hawk's website and recommending. So you can see a couple of different visualizations, some that are above ground and kind of like paths meandering through walking areas and passive areas, and then also ones that are also sunken in to the ground. So again, the ground testing that we're going to be doing prior to town meeting, we're doing it this month, and so we'll be able to have that information ready to go. That'll be able to tell us what exactly we can work with the designers for the landscaping. So, so just to recap, This actually has been a very, very involved process with the community. The Recreation Committee had voted these two articles for the administration office to put together and move forward for consideration for this town meeting. That was back in January, and then we went before capital outlay in February and got a vote from them. Community Preservation Committee had a pre-meeting and then a public meeting, public hearing. So we've seen them twice on this application. We've received approval for that. The Finance Committee, we went before you back in February for a little teaser, letting you know that this was coming, and so you're hearing it again tonight. The Select Board also had their meeting on January 23rd and supported these two articles, but they have not officially voted on these, and that will be hopefully tomorrow night. It is on their agenda, and then town meeting. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Rich?
The 500,000 for design or for design and construction?
Design and construction,
Thank you.
That was my question too, is that enough money?
yes.
So that doesn't include like a project manager and or contingency, or it does?
It includes contingency. It just depends on how the bids come in. So if it does, unfortunately, if it comes in over bid, then we're gonna have to come back for more money or find an alternative source. But we're looking at grants, we're looking at other opportunities out there. I've been in contact with the state for different types of cultural grants as well. So I'm thinking really collectively, so because we can utilize this for public spaces also, having picnic areas and places for people to rest so they can watch their children or grandchildren actually skating. So we're looking at it really, the whole area as one big attraction and experience. So there could be public art that's incorporated that we could utilize a cultural council grant from the state. ADA accessibility, there's other types of grants like that we're gonna be able to, but 500,000 is the appropriate placeholder for this.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? All right, thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just so you're in, I'd like to comment. Every application before you tonight, except for one, can be funded through existing funds. The only one that we decided to recommend for future revenues is the one for 86 Waterhouse Road, only because they will not be ready to be started, like on June 30 or so. Everything else can be paid for through existing funds.
Thank you. Okay, next, Article 9, CPC Historic Preservation, roof at former Hoxie School. Who's,
Is Ms. Jerome, is she on?
I believe she is on.
Yes, hi there. Hi, thanks for having me tonight. My name is Chris Jerome. I'm the founder and president of Anna's Pals. It's a nonprofit located here in Boston, and we service kids that are hospitalized with long-term hospitalizations due to cancer and other sorts of treatment like that. Our big goal is providing a getaway, a respite for immunocompromised kids, and we recently acquired the former Hoxie School, and we would like to transform that into this escape for these fragile children. And we have requested, initially we requested $115,000 just to replace the roof, but that increased to $135,000 because of other testing that we needed to do. And the roof is in really bad shape. There are holes in some of the ceilings in the classroom where the water has come down. There's now water leaking down into the basement from the roof. So it's in really bad shape, and we were hoping to get that fixed to preserve the integrity of the building.
thank you.
Questions?
Yes, Rich?
Yeah, you purchased the building from the town. What was the purchase of that?
$1,000.
And now you're back before the CPC for whatever the number is, to do the roof. What about the rest of the proposed renovations to make them into apartments? Is that money set aside or committed?
That money, we're fundraising for that money currently.
And where do you stand with that fundraising?
We have quite a ways to go. We've only, our hands were tied for fundraising because we didn't have the property. Now we actually have property. We just hired an architect to get some designs in place, so I'm quite confident that now that we have an actual piece of property to present to potential donors, that the fundraising will go much more, we will be much more, we'll be funded much quicker than we have been in the past due to the lack of having an actual property.
Tom?
When do you plan on starting construction?
According to, the agreement with the town, we cannot start construction until we have the majority of the funding. So we have up to 4 years to do that. However, I don't think the roof will wait 4 years to make that happen, so, that's why we're requesting money for the roof right now, because it is a historical building, and we'd like to, well, we love the building, we wanna preserve it, and, if the roof gets ignored, the building will not be there in 4 years.
Tom?
What happens if you don't get your funding?
Then it reverts back to the town.
I might add that this is a major historical building within the community, and it has been so designated way back when Ms. Hoxley, the Hoxley School, et cetera. And there was a previous attempt to renovate the Hoxley School by another private nonprofit organization for more cultural activities versus this type of a project. And we did approve it, the town did approve it, and they initially worked on the gymnasium, the gymnasium part to make it ADA compliant, et cetera, and then that process just didn't go forward. So now you've heard Ms. Jerome explain, and actually, her application was for 150, and then she brought it down to 115, and after vetting everything with Ms. Jerome, the committee on our own motion increased the recommendation by 20,000, and that is because they have yet to do the hazardous waste, if there's anything in the roof, et cetera, for the proper testing, proper disposal. A member of our committee works in that field and made it very clear that this has to be done before anything happens and the roof actually starts. So that's why we increased our recommendation by 20,000.
Amanda?
Just so I understand, so you're trying to get the roof done to get over the hump so you can complete your while you complete your fundraising, you don't anticipate coming back to us again. Is that the intention?
It depends on what we need futuristically for the historical preservation part of the building, but our goal is to raise enough funds to do this on our own. But that being said, it is a historical building, so things do come up on the exterior, and if the town would choose to help us with that, we would always appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you for coming and presenting this. I have a couple of questions about the roof and the construction type itself. Could you tell me what the vintage of the building is? When was it built?
The building was originally built, I believe, without having everything in front of me, in 1909. And the roof was done a number of years ago, and the last time the roof was done, according to our roofer, it was just an overlay. So the whole thing now has to come down, and it's a substantial building, and so we have to go right down and remove the roof completely and start from scratch.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's timber construction, and then and it's probably has multiple layers on it of
Correct.
roofing materials. And then what was the last type of roofing material put on? Was it asphalt?
Yes. Yes, but there's a flat part in the middle of the roof, and that is gravel and tar
Oh, okay,
also.
ballast, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, okay, so there's a flat part, and then is there like a hip roof part, or is it all flat?
No, just the center of the building is flat. The
Okay.
sides are the regular asphalt shingled siding, and the gym is the regular asphalt shingled
Okay.
tiles,
Okay.
shingles.
Thank you. And then, do you happen to know what the square footage of the surface is?
Of the roof itself, if you give me 1 second, I can see what the quote, if there's on the quote, if it gives me square footage.
Yeah, if it breaks it out to the flat ballast roof and then also the, you know, the peaked, whatever type of roof it is, that'd be awesome.
It says to tear off existing roof, inspect roof boards and repair and replace 50 feet of roof boards.
Does it say 50 squares or 50 feet?
No, it just says 50 feet.
You're talking about under, the roof surface, not the roof, but the boards underneath the shingles.
It does say roof
Up to
boards,
50
yes.
feet and beyond that would be extras.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Tom?
Okay, that's it, thanks for me.
What is your fundraising goal?
Our fundraising goal is $5 million. We don't believe that it will be that much. Our initial walkthrough quote was $2 million, but we'd like to have a buffer because things happen, particularly with, you know, the supply chain lately, costs are skyrocketing. So our initial quote was $2 million. However, we don't know, so we'd like to raise 5 just to be on the safe side.
Is that just for the roof or?
Well, that'd be the whole project.
Okay.
That's for the whole project, correct?
Correct.
Kathleen?
What other types of fundraising do you have planned?
We just had a fundraiser a couple weeks ago. We're having a golf tournament coming up in June. I have calls daily with different people, connecting me to different people. We're supposed to be talking with the Yawkey Foundation within a couple weeks. We're writing grants constantly. We are reaching out everywhere we possibly can.
Hi, Liz, it's Carla Emmons. This isn't your only building for Anna's Pals, right? I mean, you've done this before.
No, this is.
Oh, this is your
there's
first
nothing-
one.
Nothing like this exists. This project, a space for immunocompromised kids does not exist. This is the first of its kind.
Okay, sorry, Chris.
Rich?
Yeah, of the 5 million that you just mentioned, how much have you actually raised?
Not that much. We haven't, I'm not the finance person. I don't have all those numbers in front of me. I know we have a long way to go.
Amanda?
So that 2 million you mentioned, does that account for any hazardous materials, or if that has not been tested and therefore not factored into that rough quote? I know you're raising 5, but given the age of the building and,
The 2 million was the original walkthrough to get us started, to write the proposal to the town, to all that stuff. We've just hired an architect. We're waiting to get, now that we have the architect in place, waiting to get the engineers down there, and I'm sure that number will change, which is why we have increased our fundraising goal.
okay, I just think to be mindful of the hazardous materials. I understand that can be pretty expensive to remediate.
I have heard that, yes.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Yes.
This obviously falls under the category of preservation of a historic building and to the town. And I just want to have the record here that the Historic Commission on March 12th voted unanimously to recommend this project. We have a record here. So the request is before you was $135,000 for this project, basically towards the repairing of the roof at this point to stop the leaking.
Kathleen?
Yeah. So I have one more question. What other types of experience do you have in like the fundraising field or on the nonprofit sector? Have you done
I've
anything
worked-
like this before?
Nothing to this extreme. I'm a teacher by trade. I have worked for a private Catholic school for 20 years, and we've done major capital projects while I was with them. So I have lots of people backing me and supporting me on this. My experience is with dealing with immunocompromised kids, as my daughter, when she was sick, was immunocompromised, and we saw, before we lost her, we saw the void in the care for immunocompromised kids. So that's where this project came from. And I have no doubt in my mind, now that we have the property, once we get to the right people, that this project will be up and running sooner rather than later.
Do you have a board of directors?
Yes.
And could you provide us with the names of the people who sit on your board?
Verbally right now, or you
No.
like them sent to you?
Sent. Could you send them?
Yes,
Perfect.
I can.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions, Article 8?
Just one more comment. I mean, I was looking it up, is that because this building has a historic designation, it should be, I would think, for the community itself. Sorry, Chris, but regardless of what Anna's Place is doing, it probably does need to be. Just a comment that it can't be pulled down without further involvement from the Historic Society.
Thank you.
Quick
Elena?
question. The number you added, you're confident that would cover remediation of hazardous materials?
Well, with confidence, till you open up the roof and you start. And we had a long discussion, as I say, one of our members, that's exactly what he works in.
Okay.
And that's why he made a long presentation, and Ms. Jerome listened to it very intently, and originally hadn't included anything in that 115. So that's why on our own motion, we increased it by a recommendation of 20. We hope it's enough, but again, we've been through this before, and when you start opening a roof like this, but irrespective of that, if you run into any hazardous, like the roof material, she said it's gonna be properly disposed of, tested and everything else before anything goes forward.
Okay, and may I have a follow-up if I
Yes.
may? So if this isn't enough to cover it, do you have additional funds to cover the roof replacement to get you over that hurdle while you continue to raise additional funds?
We do. We did not request, we only requested half of the funding for the roof.
Okay.
We have the other half, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion on Article 9? All right, thank you. So Article, oh,
Wayne, I think, has a question.
hi Wayne.
Chris, are you a 501c3?
We are,
Thank you very much.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Article 10, Affordable Housing, 9 Sandwich Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representing this project will be, I can't see if he's up there, but Attorney O'Shaughnessy,
Yes, he's here.
is he there?
Yes, he is.
I am Barry, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Michael O'Shaughnessy. I'm an attorney in Middleborough, Mass. We have an affordable housing project that we'd like to bring forward. It's proposed to be constructed at 9 Sandwich Road. It'll be a 32-unit project. 8 of the units will be affordable. We are seeking $80,000 for our soft costs to get the project off the ground and moving forward with the design. Part of the project includes the construction of the design of a parking lot area and drainage system on an adjacent piece of town-owned land. We've been before the Housing Trust several times. We've been before the CPC several times. We've had positive feedback every time we've met. And we're looking for you folks to endorse the use of these funds for this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you folks may have.
I'd like to just state, thank you, Attorney O'Shaughnessy, we're talking back and forth. Our motion, after a lot of discussion, was that we recommend approval, like Attorney O'Shaughnessy said, of the application of 9 Sandwich Road LLC for $80,000 from housing reserves to be applied towards the soft cost of the design of the project. That's very specific motion, and that's what we're putting forth.
Thank you. Rich?
Is this the house that, the antique house, for lack of a better description, that's in that,
Beside it,
beside it? And what's gonna, but it's not on that site?
it's the parking lot that's right, the house is there, it's the parking lot that Mr. McKenzie owns right behind it, right beside it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So that's our recommendation, that's the motion, and I think you've heard, again, it's just limited right now to design soft costs. That's where we stopped.
I have a question.
Yes, Priscilla?
My question would be, do you have any restrictions on, my understanding is that this first ask of 80,000 is for design, is that correct? Is it design restricted to the lot itself, or as he described, there's a parcel of town-owned land that you want to use for parking? Or is it for both of those?
It would be both.
Right.
Okay, so an overall kind of design of both, comprehensive design?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
We even went a little bit further, inquiring like you are now, and we came down to the point where if you don't do the design and get the plan, then we know what we gotta do in the next step, or they have to do. So it's important to have this project, it'll be very valuable, affordable housing for the town, et cetera. So that's why we recommended it. Plus the partnership and the trust have both unanimously recommended it.
Okay, follow-up question, please.
Yes.
Sir, what would be the process to get permission, or I don't know what the terminology would be, to allow use of the town parcel? I mean, it seems as though there might be a whole separate process to get that under the umbrella of the project.
Yes, as we advance the project forward, we'll figure out what we need to do to design the parking lot, and part of, we'll be coming back to the town meeting seeking an easement, because to use the town parking lot, we're using it for part of our drainage, it'd be subsurface drainage, and on top of that would be a parking lot, so we would need an easement from the town to use it for, in easement purposes. So, this is the first, the first of many steps to get this project moving forward.
Okay, another question, sorry. But there's kind of a, I mean, I'm not too schooled in construction law and liability, but the town would, it seems as though, would have some skin in the game for liability and other issues. So is there a plan to ask the town to rent it over, say, 99 years? Or, I mean, is there a plan put forth for that particular parcel that is town-owned?
That's what part of our soft cost asks is, so we can actually design it and figure out the extent of an easement. We're not looking for a license, we're actually looking for a property right, and all this will be worked out as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can add to that. That would all have to be negotiated with the town and then have to go back before the select board. It's a very public process, and then the town meeting would have to approve that. But that's all contingent, and this design, and I'm not gonna speak for the attorney, but this soft cost is to design to see if it's possible and to explore it and see whether
Testing.
options, as well as within the zoning and the confines of what's allowed on the property for parking regulations, and then looking at alternatives if that site is still using for housing purposes. But that is all, using town property has not been really dove into at all. It's been discussed in a very very thin, veiled
High
type
level.
of concept, exactly. So, Yeah, so that nothing has been, and incorporating also the library into the mix because the library is going through the feasibility study. So the select board will be incorporating all of that into the thought process.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Okay, sorry. So, go ahead.
Has any thought been given to traffic studies, because that is very close to Five Corners, which there've been a number of car accidents there. So I'm just wondering what kind of impact that's going to have on traffic in that area.
Well, this project will be permitted before the zoning board of appeals, and I'm pretty confident that traffic will be discussed during those hearings, and we will have a traffic engineer brought on board, and we'll have to do our due diligence and analyze it and make sure we don't impact the traffic in that area.
Rich?
Is the funding in place for the actual bricks and sticks of the housing? And if so, what restrictions are in place? What market are you attempting to address with the units that you're building? In other words, what's the affordability? And
Yeah. We don't have any funding in place right now. This is the first step of the process. Once we get the project designed, we'll move forward with the zoning board of appeals, and then if the project gets approved, then we'll seek construction funds from a lender. There'll be other monies invested in this, but it's not funded at this time. As far as the affordability goes, 25% of the units will be rented out to lower median income families. It'll be a mishmash of 1, 2, or 3 bedroom units. This will be a rental project, not for sale. The upside to the town is all the units would count towards your subsidized housing inventory count. So it's a small project. It's not going to be a big bump, but it all adds up at the end of the day.
Is $80,000 the entire fee for the soft design?
My guess, it'll probably, it could go a bit higher, but I think the developer would have to be covering those costs.
Does the developer already own that piece of property?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Ross?
Sue Ross, I'm chairperson of Bourne Housing Partnership. I just wanted to bring this out is that the reason that we were supporting this article was because we just finished our housing production plan, which is mandated for every town by the state. It's 98 pages. And one of the things our consultant did, and we did and voted, and the select board voted on it also, is there's all these steps for getting more affordable housing, and one of them is, especially in the town of Bourne, we have to have some skin in the game for funding to be available to any builders. We are happy with smaller projects. A lot of the state funding, they want these big, huge projects. And for our town, we would like to support something that's a bit smaller. I don't know how this will come out. I don't know at the end if we'll be with it, but to go along with our planned production, which the state just certified, we have to do some things that have some of the town's monies involved in, so that once this is done and they go for more funding, they can say that the town did support it in this way by providing $80,000. So that was one of the big reasons that we were supportive, besides the fact that it was a smaller project. So I just wanted people to be aware of the plan, the housing plan production.
Thank you. Rich?
if this doesn't go forward, the feasibility, I mean, if the housing is never built, the study on the parking lot and the plan for the
traffic.
goes to the developer or goes to the town? In other words, who's the beneficiary of the town's money if this doesn't all gel together and all the various pieces and approvals from various departments and?
Well, this is start. This is start of design. This is to get us to that point, to see if the project is viable. We're confident right now that it is, but as Sue said, you know, we're looking for some help from the town to get these projects off the ground.
So the developer is looking for the town to fund the feasibility study of the ability to build this property? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is for the actual site design, the building design. It's for the soft cost, to be able to put a project in front of the zoning board of appeals in the town to review and approve. You know, as I said, this is the first step of one of many, we'll look for some help to move this forward.
Amanda?
I have two questions. One, what happens if you don't get the funding from the town? Will this project still move forward via maybe private funds or another means? And then two, I'm not trying to get too personal, but is this something the owner has done in the past, so they have a track record that they're able to, you know, raise the funds or obtain the funds to move a project like this forward? Since we are investing money, I would just like a little bit of confidence that, you know, it's viable for that person.
Sure, my assumption is if this doesn't get approved, the project will not go forward. And two, the developer's a local builder. This is his first foray into this type of housing. But he's hired a team, myself included, that has done this in the past. So we don't see any issues moving this forward.
Okay.
Any?
May I, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? Just as a way of a historical situation, the town has supported at least two other projects of this nature, and we even go back to 2006 and 2007. And that is, and we rotated the money forward, and that's for the Cape View Way project, which is right behind the North Sagamore Fire Station. It's finally under construction. I believe it's 52 units, et cetera. And this Friday, they are having a groundbreaking. So the town right now will be contributing $370,000 by 3 separate votes towards, you know, having a housing project come forward. And we carried those funds forward because what they did was, and I'm sure they had to, like Sue said, show a commitment by the town, and then the developer will go out and get tax credits or line up outside funding, et cetera, et cetera. So, and this Friday, and some of you go by it, I'm sure you see it's being built, but the official groundbreaking is this Friday. And I happen to be, with Sue, gonna go down and say a few words and on behalf of the town and how pleased we are and our funding has carried forward, and now we have a wonderful 52-unit housing project going on. It's taken that long. And look, and the second one is the Cody School. Same situation, you know, same developer. So this is, we're following the same track, I guess is what I'm saying.
Thank you. I do have one follow-up question. The affordable housing units, is that by deed restriction? Is it 25% or 25 units? It'll be specifically in the deed that it has to have those, is that correct?
There'll be a restriction as of record that says the 8 units will have to be affordable in perpetuity.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Any more discussion on Article 10? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, Article 11, CPC multiple.
Yes, the first one is the Potomac Schoolhouse. Is Mr. Joyce there?
I don't see him.
Ben Joyce?
No.
Hmm?
No.
No.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's
There he is.
Oh, hi.
There we go.
Hi, Mr. Joyce, you have the floor.
Okay, the Potomac Schoolhouse is seeking, $29,000 to have schoolhouse fumigated to eradicate powder post beetles. All old buildings have powder post beetles, but the schoolhouse recently has developed a lot of sawdust piles up on the first floor for the last 3 years. They hadn't been present before, but they are now. And so we were somewhat alarmed. We tried to do it cheaply to have these bugs removed. And we had an exterminator come, and he sprayed borax solution on 2 occasions, 2 different years. And the 3rd year, the bugs still came back, at least the sawdust piles. So there's a lot of powder post beetle activity there, and we'd like to get rid of them. We got an estimate for the fumigation, which involves a tent, and the fumigation cost is $24,000, and we're asking for $5,000 in addition for any unforeseen expenses. And I think that's about it. We just have to be careful about ventilation. That's an important issue for powder post beetles. Once the wood gets humid, it's above 14%, then the powder post beetles make advances. So it's important to have good ventilation in historic buildings, so it discourages the powder post beetles.
Thank you.
And again, the Historic Commission is recommending this project, and it's in the amount of about $29,000, and it will come from Historic Preservation Reserve.
Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions on the Thomas Schoolhouse fumigation? All right, thank you. Okay, the next of the multiple.
Is the sewer.
Again, I'm Sue Ross, chairperson of the Bourne Affordable Housing Trust. We come before you every year because in the town of Bourne's budget, there is no affordable housing office or administrative workers' ability. So we have always, since the very first CPA funding in I think he said it was 2006 today, we were talking about it, we have relied on CPA funds to exist. This year we are asking for $99,500. We are asking it purely to run our programs. One of the things is we need to have an accountant bookkeeper. We also have a repair program that we need somebody to administer. We also, because of the repair program, need to have technical assistance. We hire people to come and do the specs for the repairs and put it out to bid. Once they're bid, we have to have the person come back that did the specs and okay it. We work with the USDA for the funding for the repair. The actual repairs do not come from CPA, just all the paperwork around it. We also pay now Housing Assistant Corporation to monitor our units, and we have many units throughout the town that all seem to have different deed restrictions. Every time we build something, the state has a different deed on it. And so then when you go to resell it or do anything with it, you have to make sure you have the right deed and all that legal stuff. And then it has to be sold, and it has to have a lot of different processes to do that sale. So we have hired Housing Assistant Corporation, and we pay them $15,500 each year out of this. And they keep in touch. They send out a yearly letter to each of the homeowners to remind them what their obligations are. And then if we get for example, we just got a house that's gonna be resold, and that, so they will get in touch with, I don't know what they call DHCD now, it's got a different name, but, and find out what the deed, you know, how the deed restriction should go, get their permission to sell it, if something has to be set first refusal, so they work on that. We also, need money costs for our equipment, for our mailings, when we have to put in a legal something into the newspaper. So there's just so many things that it does. I can't even, the cost of lotteries, we pay for lotteries, or that's how we would help some builders do the final thing to make sure the lottery's done correctly in the town. So it comes to $99,500 for, well, it comes to $101,500. The trust is putting in $2,000, so we're asking CPA for $99,500.
Thank you.
And I would just say that this is, I think, this is a recurring article for a number of years, and this is outlining the services that support the services of the trust and the partnership. And again, this will come from the community housing reserves.
Are there any questions? I'm happy to, because I know I left out some stuff, so.
No, it looks like, no,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on affordable housing part of this? No, thanks.
One more.
Okay, next.
This is from the Bourne Housing Authority. Is Ms. Garcia there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Cara.
Hi. So thank you. My name is Cara Galasso Garcia. I am the new executive director for the Housing Authority, and I've also been an employee for there for 12 years. We have come to the CPA for funding on our units that are state funded from EOHLC, previously DHCD. We completed the property at 89 Waterhouse Road last year. All buildings were done. All buildings got new exteriors, trim, siding, front doors, storm doors. So now we're moving over to our 705 program, which is our family housing. We have 2 buildings that will start construction on a previous project in about 30 to 60 days. Our goal is to do the same thing for this property, replace siding, gutters, trim, doors. They are original. They have not been really upgraded other than new windows. Other than that, we are hoping to come back again so that we can do all of the buildings. Funding would be from EOHLC. I also applied for a HILAP and was awarded that so that we can try to get all the units done.
Thank you. Kathy?
Could you explain to us what a HILAP is?
Sure. A HILAP is an application. It's called the High Leverage Asset Preservation Program. And I applied through that with the guidance from my EOHLC manager. And it's basically funding that is out there, but it is an application and not everyone gets it. So we were honored to get $222,000, which would cover 2 buildings.
Thank you.
And again, we supported this, and this is the only project's gonna come from future revenues, the $200,000, and we are recommending it as presented. And this is actually, we've supported this type of project in the past, and now it's the second phase, the remaining buildings, et cetera, that need to be upgraded a lot.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions about this Bourne Housing Authority article?
I'm sorry, just what's,
Yeah,
is
Carla?
it still at 89 Waterhouse Road, or is it a different address? I'm sorry, I missed the 89 Waterhouse Road and the 705 project.
I'm sorry, you went in and out, so I didn't get that question.
The address of where we're going, where the money is to be spent?
Sure. It'll be spent at either 8082 Waterhouse or 8486 Waterhouse. We are doing them in a way of which one needs the work the most
Thank
first.
you, thank you.
You're welcome.
They're all listed on the application.
Thank you. Okay, next, Article 12, CPC Administrative Budget.
Right, and this is the last one. I want to thank you, everybody, for your attention and going through all this tonight. Again, I alluded to earlier, this is the expense for the Community Preservation Committee. I based it on the revenue for '24 of $1,734,025, and just the real estate tax. We don't include the trust fund money in our request. So under the statute, we can request up to 5% of that figure. That was close, it's about 86,701, and we have requested 75,000 for numerous years. So that's a difference of $11,701. And again, that's for the committee expense. And that's the same article you've seen for a number of years.
Thank you.
So if there's no further comments or questions, I just want to thank everybody for your being with us tonight and diligence. And I know it's a lot to take in, but we're going to do the same thing tomorrow night to the select board. And if you have any comments or questions, please get to me or any of the applicants. And as I said, we will be coming back in a separate meeting through the chair and vice chair, and we'll go over all that prior to town meeting.
Thank you so much, we appreciate it.
So to everybody, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, Article, oh, I'm sorry.
Might it be, I guess I would need a motion to perhaps move Article 29 next. The fire department's been here since the start of the meeting, and they're physically represented. I wonder if we could get them up and give them a chance to present their article now rather than at the end of the meeting.
Sure, you want to make a motion to take that
Do
out of
we-
order?
Sorry, point of order. Do we have to make a motion to do that, or can we just take them out of order? No.
Just take it out of order.
Oh, thank you. All right, thank you. Article 29, file special legislation to remove a portion of town-owned land from Article 97 protection in order to build a future fire station.
Thank you. I'm Dave Cody, the fire chief. Thank you for having me up here. Right at this moment, though, I would like to defer to Wayne Sampson, who's the chairman of the South Station Building Committee, who is going to do the initial presentation. I'll stand by to answer any questions after, related to operations or what you need.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chairman, committee members, as you are aware, I have been the Finance Committee representative on this committee for the last 3 years. By way of history, you may know that this is actually our second committee. We've been working on this on the Southside Fire Station for almost 5 years now. The town has trying to locate the right piece of parcel of land in order to build the appropriate station to serve the south side. The first committee was disbanded in late of 2022 due to a serious injury of the chairman. The Board of Selectmen formed a new committee, and at that time I was appointed the chairman. In the past year and a half, we have been working on trying to locate land. We have looked at a minimum of 19 parcels of land, and we do have an entire list available for a number of reasons. Different parcels were eliminated due to size or potential contamination, the fact that they were sold privately, a host of reasons. We've looked at many of them. We hired a consultant to look at response times and the value to the community as a whole. We have put out 3 separate RFPs requesting proposals from property owners to sell us their land. In doing so, we have received one response each time we put out that RFP. The first and second time, it was the same property owner, and after some review of the property due diligence by our committee in the town, we found some discrepancies, and the property owner withdrew his proposal based on some information that we had found. The third piece of property that was just found in February of this year, where the owner came forward, it was actually outside of the response time indicated as acceptable by our consultants in the fire department. And speaking of the response time, a critical component here is that the article is seeking to take a piece of property on Shore Road out of Article 97 protection. And a critical component for our committee is that this piece of property is located right on the border of the Monument Beach and Pocasset Villages area. And if you look at all of the calls on the south side of the bridge, almost 70% of the fire department calls are within those two regions. So this parcel is vitally located in an area that can give the best response to the majority of calls and the majority of citizens of the south side. So it's really one of the most, one of the best locations that the town could possibly have. Now, relative to the process of taking a parcel out of Article 97 protection, it is a very intricate process. It requires many steps on behalf of the town to complete the task. Some of those requirements would be that we have to conduct studies and surveys to understand the ecological value of the land. We have to find mitigation land to replace the land that would be taken out of it. We would have to go before the town meeting and request legislation be filed. We need a 2/3 vote of town meeting, and this is why timing is critical right now. We would like to get in at the May town meeting so that we can file the legislation with the legislature. If we don't do it now, we have to wait approximately 6 months to even get going on that particular aspect of it. We can still do our due diligence, but at least if we have that part moving, you know, that part alone could take a couple of years to do, depending on our legislative representatives. So we're seeking to move it forward in a timely manner, and we need all of the town components to come together and work as a real team here. So, Chief, if I left anything out, I would ask you to comment on it, but I think that we're at a critical juncture here after 5 years to find a piece of property. We don't know of any other property on the south side at all that's available, and this is a good opportunity, the right parcel at the right time, and we need to move this project forward.
Thank you.
Chief?
I think you covered everything. Thank you. For those that you've talked about the area of response that we are talking about, what was determined the best area of response was everything south of Waterhouse Road, north of Barlow's Landing Road, obviously east of Shore Road, and west of MacArthur. So that's the area of that we're kind of limited to. So I don't know if you have any questions regarding response times, anything with operationally that I can answer for you.
I live right by the fire station right now, and it's very, very busy. Where exactly is the piece of property that you're thinking of buying?
So if you look at, to take it
Shore
out of
Road.
Article 97, yeah, it's 3.4 acres just north of the baseball field. The idea,
North of so more towards the church. So I pass the baseball field on my
We're talking-
left. I'm on Shore Road,
you're going back towards Monument Beach.
going back,
towards-
okay, so.
Yeah, so it'd be, so basically, there's about 43 acres there. There's about 3 or 4 acres just north of the baseball field, and I'm not sure how many acres.
It's a lot
Not-
back
not
there,
acre,
yeah.
not
I
80,
think it
43.
goes all the way to,
Yeah, it's basically,
Valley
we're gonna
Farms
leave that,
Road.
we want the area north of that, so there's a contiguous lot of conservation land that's not interrupted.
okay. All right, I just, and I know you already use that road a lot to begin with. So, I mean, there's a lot of pedestrian bicycles on that road too.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes me nervous. Okay, thank you. And how large a building are you anticipating? Is the large as the one in Sagamore?
No, I mean, we originally tried to keep it to a one-floor building. Basically, what we need, room for apparatus for 2 fire engines, 2 ambulances for the south side. Again, for those of you that haven't been following it, south side makes up approximately 50% of all the emergency calls in town. Right now, it's only staffed with half the people that are on this side, on the north side of the bridge. So we need to provide 2 ambulances on that side and 2 engines.
Yeah, it's busy. It is busy, all day long, all night long. It's a busy fire station. And where will the people live?
At that station.
But, I mean, if it's only 1 story, it's a.
Yeah, we're working with the architects now. There's
Okay,
gonna be,
all
living quarters in there for the crews.
Okay, great.
It may have to be 2, depending on the size of land now.
Mhm.
Original plan was to have a 1-floor station, but based on, we reduced the size, we may have to go 2 floors just because the lots are smaller.
Land, the footprint of the building, okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
Rich?
Will this parcel be delineated for town meetings so people know exactly what you're asking them to do? In other words, will there be a site plan and so people understand exactly,
Right,
following up on
words,
what
yeah.
Carl is asking, exactly where this parcel is, and does it impact the ball field and that recreation area there? Apparently not, from what you're saying, but people need to know, will have these kinds of questions.
Yes, the project manager and architect will have plans to present, to show exactly how much land is needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So we intend to do some community outreach later on this month and answer a lot of these questions in advance for residents before prior to town meeting.
Thank you. Any more questions or discussion about Article 29?
No, it's exciting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for taking out of order.
Thanks, Wayne, for zooming in from a remote site. Okay, next.
What time is it there, Wayne?
We're an hour behind you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, all right.
All right, thank you.
I thought he said he was in,
Cayman
I thought
It
you
was a
said he was gonna be in
sacrifice.
Europe.
No. So, not this time. So, okay, Article 20, authorized Beano licenses.
Yes, that would be me. We had a request from from St. Margaret's to hold, to apply for a Beano/bingo license. And it has been issued in the past. However, we, doing our due diligence to make sure we knew the process of it, it was revealed that back in 1979, the town should have actually voted to allow Beano licenses. They did in 1972, but the way that the chapter was written, Chapter 10, Section 38, was written that they had to go back after 4 years and reapprove or reauthorize. Town meeting had to reauthorize. It was actually through a town election. The town never did that. So as of right now, any Beano licenses since 1979 or 75 have not actually been approved legitimately. So this is to make sure that any future applications are authorized appropriately and through the process. So it does require a town meeting vote to allow Beano licenses, and it would be within the confines of how Chapter 10, Section 38, with like nonprofits and having to be established in the community for over 5 years, and all of those other types of criteria for being acceptable to then apply for the select board to authorize, to sign off on the application. Then the application is sent to the lottery commission up in the state. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Okay?
Is there a limit on the number of licenses we can issue, or is it
No,
no?
there is no limit.
Do you have to be a certain type of organization to get this
Yeah,
license?
nonprofit.
To be a
Mhm,
nonprofit?
and it has to be established for over 5 years in the community you're applying for.
Okay, and do we have any, I know you said that the town didn't, we haven't followed the rules, but do we have any going on right now?
That's what triggered this, actually, our investigation, is we have an application on
So-
hand from St. Margaret's, but we have not actually moved forward. The administration office has recommended not to move forward until we actually get it approved.
Okay.
Okay?
It's probably wise.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, any more discussion on Article 20? Thank you. All right, next, Article 26, easements for rail trail.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim Lyden, from representing the town through the engineering department.
Hi.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Give you a little background for Phase 1. This is easements for Phase 1 only, which is a half mile from the railroad bridge down to President's Road and Monument Neck Road. We have, I think, 8 easements or licenses that we're looking to acquire through private and public interests. This article will allow the selectmen to be authorized to move forward on the town's behalf. To give you some background, there's 3 private entities that we would be getting temporary easements for. This is for things like erosion controls while we do grading within the right-of-way, in the railroad corridor. And then there's other things like a permanent easement through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's considered permanent, but really is a lease with the Commonwealth for the actual path itself. So it is fairly minimal as far as takings go for a project like this, but we are following Mass DOT's right-of-way taking process, which is a very involved thing. And we will be working through that over the summer. So if you guys have any questions.
Thank you. Amanda?
So you mentioned that easement is like a lease for Mass. Is there a cost associated with that?
No, but there is insurance with it. That is something that we've worked with the Board of Select Board on. We are still looking to understand that cost as the project gets developed. This is actually going through the Mass DOT TIP process. It's the Transportation Improvement Program, which has milestones for a large-scale transportation project. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
So if I may, follow-up question, is that separate insurance, or would just be added to our existing?
Added to the town insurance, I guess that's a whole other issue. I don't need to bring that up, but yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think it's relevant if it's an additional cost.
Yes, right. Shared
Yeah,
cost.
no, and DOT did want us to know that. They did want us to make sure we were aware.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions about this rail trail easement?
I have a couple, if I may. So I guess you're talking about a half a mile. Does this necessitate taking up rail? I mean, I don't have a clear idea of what are the easements for, what's the end intent for this half mile. Maybe you can paint that picture.
Sure. So we've, and I've been before this committee before. So we're on probably year 5 of the development of this particular phase itself, this first half mile. This is a rail with trail project. We are not touching the railroad. In fact, I'm here today to talk about easements and construction licenses and temporary takings of land because it is a railroad trail project. If we were ripping up the railroad, we probably would have to make these, do these takings for erosion controls and clearing and grubbing and whatnot. But yeah, so the path will be on the seaward side of Gray Gables. We have the terminus that will meet at the Stackpole Memorial Park. We will have a little drainage swale on the town property. There's some land we will be doing
a permanent easement with Army Corps, and then there's 2 other easements, temporary and permanent, with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay, so I just wanted to recap to make sure I understand. It is mainly remediating civil engineering, civil issues, and that it does not necessarily include taking rail up. Is that correct?
No, correct, that is correct.
Okay, and then is there like a dovetail project to make it complete, or is it complete in its own project?
So this is phase 1, and that is in regards to the 4 phases of the Bourne Rail Trail that we've been seeking to develop since August of 2018. Phase 2 has a project notification number from MassDOT, as well as phase 4, which is a combined project with the town of Falmouth. Those were developed as railroad trail projects. Those have, have met some milestones, but are not. I mean, phase 1 was something we started right at the beginning, and we've submitted 75% design, and this is a process that comes during the 75% design phase, and in the fall we'll be at 100%, looking to develop this project next spring.
Okay, do the other 3 phases involve taking rail up?
Not right, no, they don't.
Do they support taking rail up, or do they move towards it?
Are you saying we as the town?
Any of this project? Does this project kind of like support or move towards the decision of taking the rail up? I guess I'm
So-
trying to understand the project to begin with. I understand that Falmouth has proposed, not one person or one group in Falmouth has proposed having a train that transports bicyclists rather than, taking rail up. But I'm just trying to figure out, does this project fall on either side of taking rail up or not taking rail up, or is it just remediating current issues?
So I think this
Right,
this phrase, correct me if I'm wrong, has always been a rail with trail, independent of whatever happens with the other phases.
Rail and trail together?
Yeah.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that
Because,
was kind of my main,
It's the only place, as far as I know, maybe parts of the part between Falmouth and Catawba would be like this, where there's enough room to do that, to leave the trail, the rail, and with these easements, have enough room for the bike path or
Okay.
mixed-use trail. So what would happen at the other end, at the end away from the canal? Will they be parking there in case there isn't a phase 2 soon?
Yeah, and that's something we're looking to react to more so with what our other finance committee member is alluding to, is to see where phase 2 kind of ends up with some of that design, because there's a lot of obstacles in phase 2. So we're looking to see how far along we can get phase 1. We do imagine that there could be some ADA accommodations for parking in that Gray Gables area. But, I mean, as this project stands, I mean, this is a standalone project itself. It connects Gray Gables with the canal pathway. We have a large population, a dense population of houses in that area. Some really nice, coastal amenities that we'll have access to. And that rail trail will definitely highlight, what those people get to do in that area.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any more questions on, or discussion about Article 26? Looks like none. Thank you, Mr. Lydon. Okay, next, Article 27, easements for police station utilities.
Mr. Chair, I'll also speak on behalf of this article as well.
Okay, you have the floor.
So this is the easement that some of us should be familiar with from 2019 that the town previously voted on. We went to the process at the legislature, and it unfortunately just did not go through the current sessions, and our vote has expired. So this will authorize us to seek that out once again. We do have, I just wanted to give you the preamble with that.
This is a 40-foot wide proposed utility easement on the State Armory property over by the Buzzards Bay bypass. This was a portion of land we needed to close a water line loop for pressure over at the new police station. We also, I think, added fiber optic or some sort of telecommunications lines as well. So we got the access license from the state to actually install it. Now that the project is complete, we just need to finalize this with the permanency of the easement and passing legislature for that.
Thank you. Any questions about this police station easement? All right, thank you. Next, thanks. Article 28, septic easement for 1 Monument Ave. Is there anyone here about that? Do you know?
I can talk about it.
Caitlin is right here, yep.
Caitlin from the Warren Health Department. So this easement is requesting about 262 square feet of Monument Ave in front of 1 Monument Ave for the septic upgrade that will need to be installed to serve the existing 4-bedroom dwelling. So this easement is necessary to ensure a proper sewage disposal system to service that dwelling while maintaining maximum feasible compliance with Title V.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you.
I just have one quick
Carla?
question, Caitlin. Are they gonna rip up the road right there on Monument Ave?
Not the whole road. Based off of what they proposed, it's the corner of leading up to their yard. Not the whole road will be ripped up.
Okay, the traffic can still go through.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, future agenda items. We're meeting next week. That may be our last meeting before town meeting, right?
Yes, unless, if Barry's ready, otherwise he proposed.
Yes.
another meeting.
So, if that's the case, it would be great if we could vote on all the articles next week, which is like 30 of them. And we assigned, for the new people may not know, which is really just Carla, we assigned the articles. Priscilla was here.
Oh, you were here last?
Yeah, that was the first introduction to that task.
Sorry, so we each present our recommendation, which usually consists of the vote and any relevant discussion we had about the article.
So if there's, how many, there's 20, 30 articles, how long is it?
Yeah, and there's something from special town meeting as well, right?
So how long do you think that's going to take?
It's
Anticipate-
impossible. It depends on,
How tired we get?
it depends on the town meeting members too, in terms of what questions they ask and what issues they have with particular articles. Sometimes everything goes,
No, our meeting next week.
oh.
I've been to plenty of town meetings, so I know what can happen, but,
They tend to move pretty quickly. We've already had the presentations and
Okay.
discussions.
All
So
right.
it's,
some articles might take longer, but most will be.
typically, yeah, it's pretty
No,
quick.
yeah, yeah,
Questions
okay.
have already been answered. You already should have the information to make a decision.
If we
Okay,
can't
good.
do it, we might have to meet next Thursday or something, because the following Monday is Patriots' Day, but we'll see how it goes. And then we'll have a report, a draft report, the FinCom report for town meeting to present to everyone then. Okay, minutes of March 18th. I hope you had a chance to review them. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Okay, approved by Kathy, second by Amanda. Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Thanks. Tom?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. So there's a meeting for the moderators meeting, April 17th. That's kind of like a dress rehearsal. I won't be able to attend. I got to work, so do you think you'll be able to go?
Sure.
Is it at town,
It's usually in this room.
in this room? Okay.
If enough people go, I'm not clear if we have to post a meeting or if
Yes,
people
if
just.
enough
We'll have
people,
to post
yeah.
a
All right, well, next, I'll ask how many people are going to go, whether it should be most meeting posted.
Could we have a check on the time? Because I have 3:30, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
April 17th at 3:30?
It's in the day usually. It is at 3:30.
It's a Wednesday, okay.
And it's here in this room.
All right. Anything before we adjourn? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Oh, I move by Amanda, second by Kathleen. Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Yeah, I vote yes. All right, thank you, Wayne. Thanks for taking time out of vacation for us.
Enjoy your vacation.